Welcome to a new episode of The Check-In, the little segment of the Framework podcast where we just get all personal and intimate with frameworkers and see what they're up to and what they're doing and especially where they're doing it from. Today with us we have Sam Roberts. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Hello, I'm really well. And yourself?
Good, yeah. As long as I can keep on seeing people, I'm happy. So keep on saying.
Yeah, I actually do worry about you during this period, more than most. I am concerned that if you don't interact with enough people over a period of time, you may cease to exist.
Yes, I may cease to exist, but luckily I do have 3 housemates. So there is like enough of a variety around me that I constantly am with. So I think I'll be fine. If I were to like lock down by myself, I would probably like implode and turn into like fireworks and just stop existing, as you said.
I'm exactly the same. Now, can I ask you a question that someone asked me the other day that stumped me? When was the last time you hugged someone that wasn't a housemate of yours?
Probably the day before getting in isolation. That would be like around 3 weeks ago. And probably that was Jess.
It was Jess. Oh, I bet she gave a good enough hug that it's lasted you through this period.
Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And also, like, we were already, like, not supposed to hug. So it felt like a rebel hug. It felt great.
It was already a rebel hug. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Like, we were in framework with people around us, hugging. Like, it was great. Like, all of the things you're not supposed to do. So, like, having that memory.
Just licking each other, coughing on each other.
Exactly. Just coughing in each other's eyes. Constantly.
I get it.
Yeah.
I know. I've missed it. I miss that human cough.
What about you? Who's the last person you hugged before the lockdown?
It might have been my mum, which I'm pretty happy about. My parents visited me just before the proper lockdown came in. Like it was really on the precipice of things happening. Yeah. And I got to finally show my parents around Melbourne. They hadn't really visited me since I moved here. And so just in the nick of time, managed to show them my house, get a big mum hug, and then everything went into lockdown. So I think that really has helped me get through this.
Like, if you wanted to write a novel about this, that would be a great scene to just like separate before the coronavirus isolation and after the coronavirus isolation. You should consider that.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I've got this really interesting thing happening in that I'm sort of writing about my parents a little bit because they're going through this situation in Canberra. My dad's a doctor and mum was a nurse, but they're both going to have to isolate themselves so that they can do healthcare stuff like first line response.
I really wanted to ask you about this because the piece you wrote so far on Medium is heartbreaking and amazing, and like kudos to you for being such an incredible writer. But please go on.
Oh, thank you. Well, that's very kind of you. But I just wanted to say it's actually become rather difficult because my plan was to continue sort of documenting the journey that those two go on and their experience of it so that more people can understand that and have an insight into it.
Yeah.
But we're at this weird stage in Australia where our social distancing is working and we're not spreading the virus as much, which has its own problems in terms of how long it will last. But I've been talking with my parents regularly and they're at home, they can't work properly or do any of their normal stuff, but they're not yet doing frontline response because the big rush to the healthcare system hasn't happened. And so I was talking to my dad who had previously, we'd had this really emotional charged discussion about him being willing to put his life on the line for his community. And now he's at home just going, I'm bored. I want to go to the hospital. I want there to be more patients so I have something to do.
Like it's a part that like movies about heroes and like heroic acts never show is the amount of times you kind of like rally up yourself and go like, yes, I will commit to this. I want to do this. It's for the good of my community. It's for the good of my country. I will put myself on the line. And then it doesn't happen. You're like, but I had an heroic moment. Come on.
Exactly.
Like, the hard part was making the decision, not actually doing the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, Dad's really upset that he doesn't get to be a hero at the moment yet. So at this point, I'm going to have to write stories about the boring things that they're doing at home. And I don't think people are going to be quite as inspired by that.
Well, I think like the premise is amazing. So like, please do write about this. Keep on writing about it.
Well, that's the plan. At the moment, I'm trying to balance talking about things happening at the moment because it's what we're all thinking about, but then also trying to not think about it because that's the hardest thing to do right now is to try and think about other things or life pre-virus.
I think that it's part of our brain that is constantly engaged into that discussion. Like there is not a moment where maybe 10 or 20% of your attention is not on what is happening, coronavirus, lockdown, isolation, what is happening in Italy for me, for example, like in my country, or like what is happening in the States, why Trump is such an idiot, like all of this kind of stuff. Like it's constantly in your brain. So you can never deep dive into one of your tasks. At least that's my experience so far.
I'm 100% the same. But there's this kind of dual feeling of it where it's frustrating that it's constantly taking up your attention and it's so depressing all of the time. But for me, there's kind of that sense of community in the fact that I don't know when in the world we've all gone through the same thing at the same time, and the same thing has been on the collective communal world conscience.
Yeah.
And it's just really amazing to know that at any one point, someone sitting in Indonesia or Russia or America are probably thinking about the same thing. And I find that really fun. Sort of, it reminds you how small the world is, which is also rather scary because that's why it's a problem.
Very true. And it's also like why here things are going slightly differently, because Australia has always like boggled me with being a country that defies the laws of physics, because it's such a big country with such a small population. At the same time, it manages to be far away from everything at the same time. Nothing is close to Australia. Like everything is far away. So I guess in a sense, like that helped with creating this unprecedented situation where social distancing and all of these norms are kind of making an effect. They're preventing a problem. And so people that are, I don't know, making modules and graphs about like how to, react to the rush to the healthcare system and the epidemic and all this, I kind of going like, we didn't expect it to work. What do we do now?
Absolutely. And it's funny how it's interacting with the Australian culture in terms of us being a culture that is really sort of, she'll be right, it'll be fine. We don't follow rules. We don't follow guidelines. We're very social and we're very touchy-feely as people. And I'm curious as to how that's playing out in Italy, because I see the news in Italy and it was so terrible as that was coming through. But in terms of how that's changing culture now and changing the way people interact, I don't think there's any people on earth that are known for being more physical and communicative with their gestures and how they touch people and interact like that.
Yeah.
Is that all having to just change now? And is that changing how people view Italian culture?
If you think about it, the weirdest thing, one that will definitely find its place in history books, is the fact that when the lockdown laws happened in Italy, when there was like the big red zone of Lombardy in the north of Italy, and then it got extended to the whole country, the first line of the decree that explained what to do in this situation and what was happening was, it is forbidden to hug. Like it's literally in a piece of law, which makes no sense in Italy. So like still like to this day, talking with my family and my girlfriend and all of my friends, everyone's still surprised by that. Everyone goes like, I want to hug people. I miss like physical touch and contact. And luckily all of my friends and family and all, like most of them are isolating with their housemates or their family or their partners. So like very few people that I know are actually alone. But yes, like people are physically missing touch with each other.
Yeah, it's just going to be so funny to see if Italy ends up creating a whole new way of becoming physical without having to do that, because I feel like the Italians will find a way to hug when they can't hug, you know? You will break through.
I think that like people will just do like hug festivals and stuff like the first events will be like, let's just hug each other, cuddle puddle, like let's do this. We need to like make up for 3 months of isolation. I just need to touch random people. I don't care who they are. Like just like let me put my hands on your face and tell you you're beautiful.
Straight into the post-pandemic parties.
Yeah, exactly. Beautiful. So like it's going to be real tricky, and it is actually a thing that is happening, jokes aside, to understand when to let go of these restrictions. Because as soon as now everything's restricted, right? You can't do anything. You can't leave the house unless you go grocery shopping, to the pharmacy, or if you have like insanely important work to do, like doctors, nurses, and deliveries and working at grocery stores and all that. So the moment you let people go like, well, now you can leave the house to go for a walk, it's going to be like floodgates open. Everyone will be out. So like it's very crucial to understand from like our lawmakers and politics when to open that little like keyhole of freedom, because then people are going to go insane.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be wild. And speaking of going insane, when have you felt your reality slipping away from you the most during this isolation period?
Honestly, it still hasn't.
It
I
still
don't.
hasn't. Oh, mine left weeks ago.
No, it's just that like the weird thing is that I cannot do what I do. That is my
Mm.
biggest thing. Like, yes, I can go and take pictures of my housemates, which I've done for years regardless. But it's just that I cannot organize. I cannot stumble upon stories to tell. I cannot like broadcast those stories to others. And I feel like everything that I am allowed to do is actually remixing something I've done in the past. So that's the point where like I feel like everything has gone to a halt, and that is what like that is my reality. So it feels like that stopped, but everything else, I don't know. You get used to it. You try everything you can to keep sane, but I don't know. You keep in it. What about you?
So, well, I mean, I don't think I'm losing it at all because I've got a very comfortable situation. I'm very happy with my housemates and my house, and luckily my work has been unaffected so far. So
That's
I'm
great.
still able to work from home. Yeah, it's really been a real blessing. I might like there's a chance I might even be able to pick up a little bit more work, and I guess
Amazing.
because
Love it.
the yeah, well, the clients that I'm working with, they're having to cut back on the sort of amount of work that they're doing in terms of working in the solar energy industry, installing solar panels and stuff, and working on trees. People don't have the spare cash to do that as much, as well as people are worried about hiring people to come to their house,
Yeah.
even though those are considered essential services. But my clients are needing marketing more than ever. They're needing their digital presence to be out there so that their name can remain out there in the public for when things go back to normal.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
luckily that has resulted in them needing more content written and work from me, which I'm so grateful for, and it's been really lucky. But on top of that, like I've got a backyard, which this keeps me sane, to be honest.
Same.
It's having some nature back here. It's having this beautiful walnut tree behind me, which is the best. And I've also got a new addition to the house since the isolation that I purchased as soon as that we had the lock-in official,
Oh,
and
wow.
that is
A bunker, a doomsday bunker.
I don't know if you can see it too well here, but it's a
No.
slackline.
Oh, wow. Well, I was actually about
Yeah.
to ask you, like, how do you keep even just like active physically? Because, I know you're a super like active person and you love climbing and being outdoors and doing stuff. And a slackline, of course, you'd be the kind of person that
Yeah.
goes on a slackline.
Hey, look, man, I'm going to try and get on it right now while we're having conversation. Oh, here I am. Ah, down we go. So, yeah, I've been doing a lot of that. A lot of going up and going down.
It's great. And like as you panned the camera, I did catch a glimpse of one thing that is going to make me and a lot of people in Framework insanely envious. You have a ping pong table at home.
Yes, I do. And the truth comes out. I have a ping pong table, and I'm going to admit, I've had this well before the quarantine period started.
That's
This
how you
beautiful
train.
beast here, this beautiful beast here
That
is
is
how I train. It's the best. So my hope is that by the time that Framework's back and running, I'm going to be peak performance on the ping pong, and
yes.
maybe everyone else might have let it slip over this period
Do,
because I don't know.
do you have like housemates that are good enough at ping pong to like pose a challenge to you?
I do. They weren't at first, but we've been playing enough that they have gotten mighty good, and we have some proper house competitions going on here. So things have been getting
Wow.
pretty wild on the ping pong table.
I think literally like from what you've said, like work has been unaffected. If anything, it might get a bit busier for you. Like you
Yeah.
have your backyard and like you have nature and a slack line. You can train at ping pong and you have enough of a challenge. I think that you caused this. You wanted to get into this situation. Like this feels like it's
Yeah.
a bit too convenient that everything is right in place for you.
And I got to admit as well, this has been the motivation to start publishing writing that I've been meaning to do for a long time. So that's been great inspiration. On top of that, each day I go out for some outdoor exercise once a day, which is allowed.
Yeah.
And so I go out for a skateboard each day, which I love because the streets are emptier than ever.
Empty. Yeah.
So for skateboarding, that's kind of perfect. So I've been cruising the ghost town that is Melbourne. The one little bit of illegal activity that I do, I don't know if it's illegal, but feels like I'm breaking social distancing guidelines just by being out in public. but I'll go for a skateboard each day and then find a quiet bit in a park and read my book for half an hour in a park in the sun. I don't know if it feels like that's now a contraband activity.
Isolation police, get him. You heard him. Get him.
Oh no!
We have a video
I've been
confession.
quietly reading a book in a park like a criminal.
Yeah, like the criminal you are, the rebel you are. You do not take direction that well. Not direction, but like orders. Yep. You're a free-thinking spirit.
Literally, in terms of, exercise and then being social with my housemates and getting outdoors a bit and reading and publishing work and getting good at ping pong, between all of that, I'm going to be honest, I'm holding up pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah. First of all, like, thank you for saying that, because it's good to have a different perspective on this, and like the check-in was born exactly for the very reason we're just talking about. Like, so understanding that people are experiencing this differently. Some of them are experiencing it. Damn it, my English. Experiencing it the same way you are. And so you don't feel alone. But at the same time, it's to avoid that sense of doom and gloom that like we're all done. We're all like we're all gonna be burning. But because like there is people that are not having the same experience, just like yourself, like there is still hope because there is work going around. There is still like things we can do and all that. It's great.
Absolutely. And that's why I also see extra responsibility, because I do have it so easy here in my situation to try and write about and speak about the situation that healthcare workers are going through. Even though it hasn't become too intense at the moment, I am just so concerned for my parents and worried for them and proud of them.
Of course.
And because what they're going through is going to be so much harder than what I am, I see that as my extra social responsibility, is to try and bring attention to that while I do myself have everything pretty comfortable and easy.
Amazing. Dude, so good. One last question that I wanted to ask you is there any change that you had to implement in your routine that you kind of want to keep after this? Some positive change that happened?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a few changes and things that I've implemented in my life that I'd like to continue. And I think probably first and foremost of that is publishing personal writing that I've been doing. That's been something that I've wanted to do for a long time. But one of my concerns was just not knowing what topic to talk about that could really capture the attention of everyone and is relevant to everyone. Yeah. And that was immediately solved by a pandemic that literally everyone is thinking about. So that suddenly was like, well, if there was one topic that we could all share at the moment, it's that. So I'm hoping that I will continue post-pandemic to continue to share my writing, which I've really been enjoying doing as well.
Nice.
On top of that, I don't know if I've changed that much. I've been writing a bunch and doing a bunch of exercise, but I've just taken a lot of the social games that I used to do and put them online. So I play some card games like Dominion, and I play another game called Settlers of Catan, both of which have online versions that I've been playing with friends in different cities.
Great.
Which has been fantastic. And then there's another game that I mentioned to you yesterday that I've been playing, which I've actually been playing for months before the pandemic, but is perfectly positioned for a quarantine isolation game.
Say it.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes. Yes.
It has been amazing. It is the best.
I love myself a good Dungeons and Dragons campaign, and I miss it so much. Like at the time of my high school and all this, I had 3 or 4 campaigns going on with different groups. I would maybe play 3 times a week, and like once during the weekend. Yeah, it was like a full-on thing. We just all discovered it all together, and it was like a big bonding moment for like my close group of friends. And when you told me this yesterday, I lost my mind. It is brilliant that you're playing D&D via like Zoom.
Yeah, well, I'm so happy about it in that I'm very new to the game. I hadn't played before starting this campaign, but what's so special about it is I started it about 6 months ago with my brother and 2 of my best friends. And the 2 best friends of mine and my brother and I live in 4 different cities. So for the last 6 months, from 4 different cities, once a week, we play this game where we're all connect to each other. And these
Amazing.
2 best friends of mine were drama friends from school. So we always used to play improv games. And so now my brother is creating this world for us. He writes the campaign. He's the dungeon master. And he creates this world for these improv friends of mine and I to just go wild in and destroy and go crazy and create new stories. And it was something that we were playing through Zoom well before this quarantine started. And since the isolation, all we've done is increase the amount we play. We now play twice a week instead of once a week.
Amazing.
It's my favorite escape of this whole isolation is creating a fantasy world with my friend and brother.
That is the best. That is the best. I think like we couldn't end it on a better note. We have to finish it now.
I mean, maybe we could try play some virtual ping pong. If I could set up a paddle connected to this video for you, and then we could just play together. It'd be nice.
Do you think that's how Pong started as a video game? Like the first video game in history was like, we got to find a way to play ping pong together virtually. And like, that's how it worked.
I think you've stumbled onto something there. I think that's almost definitely the way that it was. And those old games never had the ping to it either.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much, man, for doing this and for like allowing us to know a little bit of what happens in your life. I miss your face so much, and I can't wait to see you again once all of this is over.
Yeah, well, I mean, if this isolation continues, I want to do this again. Can we do this regularly?
Yes, absolutely. 100% yes.
Oh, that would be nice. I'm sad to cut it off so soon. I'm going to have to go work now.
Oh, no, actually, like I keep on saying work during these days, but for you, it actually is. Like this feels more like work than anything I've done in the last week. As in productive, not like in that it's a chore.
This is my greatest distraction from work, but this has been lovely. And to everyone else at Framework, I hope you're doing well.
Thank you so much, and talk to you soon, man. Ciao.
Talk to you then. Bye.
Bye.